Of the Federal Communications Commission. Madam Secretary, would you please announce today's agenda items?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to you and good morning, Commissioners. Today's agenda includes 2 items for your consideration. First, you will consider an order to modify the equipment authorization rules to increase the supply of grantee codes assigned to parties applying for equipment certification. Second, you will consider a 4th report and order, and 5th, further notice of proposed rulemaking to encourage improved spectrum efficiency and greater use of the 4940 to 4990 megahertz band. This is your agenda for today. The first item will be presented by the Office of Engineering and Technology. Julius Knapp, Chief of the Office, will give the introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. The floor is yours. Will you be doing this off of an FCC certified device?
The answer better be yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. OET is pleased to make a presentation this morning on the FCC's Equipment Authorization Program. The FCC Lab and the Equipment Authorization Program hold a special place in my heart. I spent much of my early career working in the Equipment Authorization Program, processing applications, testing equipment on lab benches and out in the field, and learning about the latest technologies. That experience gave me an appreciation for the important role that the Equipment Authorization Program plays in carrying out the Commission's mission. While the debates about standards are often in the spotlight in the context of the rulemakings, it's in the Equipment Authorization Program where the rubber really hits the road, and the products must demonstrate that they comply with the rules that the Commission has adopted. I've had the privilege of making presentations on our Equipment Authorization Program throughout the United States and in other parts of the world, and many people have come up to me and told me, and I'm proud to say, that our program is the envy of the world. But as good as our program is today, there's always room for improvement. Dr. Rashmi Doshi, who is the chief of the FCC Lab, will present an overview of the program, the steps we've taken recently to better facilitate the introduction of new technologies, an order for your consideration to expand the available number of grantee codes, and a summary of further improvements that we are contemplating for the future. In addition to Dr. Doshi, joining me here at the table is Jerry Matisse, who's the chief of our Policy and Rules Division. And I'd also like to thank Karen Ansari, Hugh Van Tile, Bruce Romano, and Bill Hurst for all of the work that they did on this item. Dr. Doshi will make the presentation.
Thank you, Julie. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. In recent years, an increasing number of wireless devices of all types have been introduced in the marketplace. Today's wireless devices are increasingly complex, both technically and functionally. In addition, an increasing number of both domestic and foreign manufacturers has created a truly worldwide marketplace for wireless devices. The Commission's Management of Equipment Authorization Program must respond to these challenges. The ever-changing marketplace, while ensuring that these devices comply with our technical rules so that we maintain the smooth functioning of the radio environment. The Equipment Authorization Program is a key component of FCC's spectrum and policy agenda. The Commission's technical rules establish the ground rules for radio performance, and the Equipment Authorization Program is the gateway for deploying new products. The Equipment Authorization Program encourages innovation by establishing a clear path to market and by providing a level playing field. By ensuring that the devices comply with the Commission's technical requirements through consistent measurement procedures, we can reduce the risk of interference and promote efficient use of spectrum. The Equipment Authorization Program also helps implement policy objectives like hearing aid compatibility. Given the rapid pace at which new products are being introduced, it is extremely important to approve new wireless devices quickly without sacrificing quality of review and compliance with our rules. The Commission has a history of adapting the Equipment Authorization Program to meet the changes in the marketplace. In 1998, it modified its rules to introduce several innovative programs. One of these was the recognition of third parties to certify equipment under the Commission rules, rather than requiring that only the FCC certify equipment. These third parties are called Telecommunication Certification Bodies, or TCBs. We have thus far recognized 35 TCBs both within the U.S. and in foreign countries under Mutual Recognition Agreements, or MRAs. Under the MRAs, we recognize foreign certification bodies that approve products as compliant with the FCC rules, and these countries recognize U.S. certification bodies that approve product as compliant with their rules in return. This arrangement provides manufacturers with a wide choice of certifying bodies in a variety of locations worldwide, thus reducing the time and expense for product approvals and facilitating international trade. The success of the TCB program depends on all TCBs reviewing certification applications consistently and in accordance with our FCC rules. OET staff accomplished this by providing guidance to the TCBs in several ways. All the TCBs are required to participate in regularly scheduled meetings with the Commission staff through conference calls and workshops. Over 150 people attended our April 2012 TCB workshop. In addition to the workshops, the staff provides guidance on an ongoing basis on a variety of topics related to equipment authorization on the FCC website as a part of our knowledge database, or KDB. The Commission staff also works closely with the TCB Council, an association of TCBs, and equipment manufacturers and test labs to better understand and analyze issues. The introduction of the TCB program has allowed the Commission to handle the growing number of applications for product certifications. As the associated chart shows, the number of applications has grown from approximately 4,000 at the time the TCB program was established in 1999 to nearly 14,000 in 2011. This represents nearly 12% cumulative annual growth rate during this period. Today, over 98% of the applications are processed by the TCBs, allowing the lab staff to focus on unique or more complex product certifications. Wireless devices have been growing in complexity at the same time. It was not long ago that the wireless device had only one or two transmitters. And in contrast, today's smartphones and tablets typically include 3 to 5 distinct radios, and each one can have a variety of operating modes. Many of these radios are software controlled by the manufacturer, operating system providers, application developers, or the carrier. This creates a real challenge for the equipment authorization program and places new demands on OET lab staff to balance the need to ensure compliance with a reasonable test program. To meet these challenges, the OET lab staff has worked with the stakeholders to develop several guidance documents that we publish on the FCC website and update as new technologies are introduced. In the early development stages of new technologies, we may not be in a position to provide guidance until we gain some experience and the technology begins to mature. In cases where such guidance has not yet been published, we allow the TCBs to use a pre-grant consultative procedure called Permit But Ask, or PBA. This allows the lab staff and the parties to explore unique situations together and help the lab staff to identify issues while providing appropriate guidance. Recently, we used this procedure for the initial introduction of LTE devices. Although this procedure does facilitate the introduction of new technologies and products, the case-by-case nature of this procedure can add delay and somewhat uncertainty for the manufacturers. In our efforts to continue streamline the authorization process, we recently modified our pre-grant consultation procedures. For example, we have provided additional guidance to the TCBs and test labs on using test procedures for LTE devices where they are substantially similar to the ones that they have already certified. One of the immediate effects was to reduce the number of inquiries about LTE devices, and some manufacturers have noted that this has reduced the time for product certification. Further, at our last workshop with the TCBs, we introduced several new guidance documents. Currently, they are in draft form, awaiting comments from the industry. Once they are finalized, TCBs will be able to process applications for these devices without further consultations with the FCC. These recent changes in the pre-grant consultation procedures have already resulted in a measurable change in the number of inquiries coming to the OET lab staff. In 2011, the number of inquiries requiring pre-approval consultations with the lab was around 3% of the total applications. The monthly rate has dropped from 36 in 2011 to about 25 during the first 5 months of 2012. The most recent changes should reduce this number further. We'll continue to monitor the program and will take steps to continue to streamline the process. As a part of this effort to ensure that the equipment authorization program meets today's challenges, the staff is reviewing the rules and procedures for the equipment authorization program. The first of this initiative is today's order and the grantee codes. When a device is certified by the Commission or a TCB, it has to have a unique identifier called an FCC ID. This consists of two elements, a grantee code and a product code or product ID. The grantee code identifies the manufacturer or the responsible party and is assigned by the Commission. This unique product code is selected by the manufacturer. A manufacturer can use the same grantee code but a different product code each time it applies for equipment certification for its products. The grantee codes were introduced in 1979 as 3-character codes. With the increase in the number of new parties applying for equipment certification, the supply of 3-character grantee codes will soon be exhausted. In 1999, only 440 codes were assigned per year, while in 2011 the number has grown to 1275. And this year we are on course to exceed that number. Today's order would increase the number of characters in grantee codes from 3 to 5, thus providing in excess of 8 million new grantee codes for future use. As a part of its review, the staff is considering a number of areas where it may recommend to the Commission modifications to the equipment authorization program so that we can better serve the public interest. In the near-term NPRM, the staff would consider areas related to the TCB program. These include the permit but ask procedures, TCB's responsibilities for checking equipment for compliance after devices are certified and marketed, accreditation of test labs, and recognition of the latest industry testing standards. In a second, later NPRM, the staff would consider administrative issues associated with complex devices. These include a variety of self-approval procedures, permissive changes to previously approved equipment, software changes to wireless devices, and approval of a variety of modular transmitters. Let me conclude by saying that the lab staff feels fortunate to have a front row seat in watching rapid innovation in wireless devices. We also recognize the responsibility to balance the need to permit rapid deployment of new technology while at the same time ensuring that non-compliant devices are not introduced in the marketplace. Through the hard work of a dedicated small staff at the lab, we have been able to introduce new procedures and look forward to continued further improvement. I'd like to thank all of our staff at the lab and support of the rest of staff in OET in helping making this program successful. Finally, the staff recommends adoption of the grantee code order and requests editorial privileges. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Let's proceed to comments from the bench. Commissioner McDowell.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you're absolutely right, Chief Knapp, how indispensable the lab is. And thank you all so much for your work. It's fascinating to go up there and to watch you all at work and the things that you're working on. I remember actually my first few weeks at the Commission in July of 2006. My son was having his birthday, and someone gave him a toy lightsaber. And as I was opening it up, by the way, it gets harder and harder to open up children's gifts. Have you noticed that they're wired into the packaging? But anyway, so there's a little sticker on it that says regulated by the FCC, my son's lightsaber. So I brought it in to Julie Knapp and I said, why is my son's lightsaber regulated by the FCC? But anyway, he told me why, and then the lab had looked at this apparently. So I was able to take it back home to my son saying, be careful how you use this because I regulate it. That didn't do any good, by the way. It's still... Thankfully, no Waterford lamps have been knocked over with lightsaber yet. But anyway, thank you all very much for all of your hard work in this important area. And, of course, I'm voting to approve this item if there was any mystery there. Another thing, though, is I looked on my key fob, and there's a long, numbers and letters on the FCC ID code. I guess I'm going to have to get a bigger key fob now that we're adding digits to it, or the font's going to get a lot smaller. So these are practical concerns that we all have, but it is absolutely vital that we do this, which will increase the supply by over 8 million. And this is an area of responsibility over which a lot of folks may not be aware at all, but it actually, when I talk about how what we do at the FCC touches the daily lives of every American and folks actually throughout the world, this is part of that, there are billions of these devices out there. And it's very, very important work that you do. So I won't blather on any further, but did want to thank you all for your diligence. And you do get that front row seat. And it's absolutely fascinating. And I hope to be up there again sometime soon to see you all in action. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clyburn.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp, Dr. Doshi, and Ms. Matisse, thank you for such a comprehensive presentation. In comparison to many of the items the Commission adopts or presents, actions that streamline authorization procedures on the surface may seem non-controversial and hold less press appeal. But OET's efforts to improve the equipment authorization program are significant because these moves will ultimately make it easier for innovators to bring their products to market. Clarifying the permit but ask procedures and modifying the rules for software-defined radios, for example, should result in fewer regulatory burdens and lower administrative costs for equipment manufacturers. Today's order on grantee codes is also a necessary step towards facilitating innovation. Devices that are subject to the FCC's certification procedure must receive an ID, FCC ID, that's unique to the device. This ID also includes a code that is unique to the grantee or manufacturer producing the device. In 1979, as you mentioned, Doctor, the FCC adopted a rule that limited the grantee codes to 3 alphanumeric characters. But it's been more than 30 years since the adoption of that rule, and the FCC is now running out of unique grantee codes. This is due in large part to the fact that the number of assigned grantee codes has been increasing each year. For example, in 2001, the number of grantee codes assigned was 635. In 2011, that number was 1,275, and staff informs us that based on the number of grantee codes that have been requested, that number will be assigned in 2010. That will exceed 1,300. All of this is good news for American consumers. It means that technology companies are attracting sufficient capital to develop innovative products for the market. And with today's action, we enable a minimum of 8 million grantee codes to be assigned in the future. This move will help to ensure that this aspect of our equipment authorization process will not impede ingenuity, and I am pleased to join my colleagues in commending the staff of the Office of Engineering and Technology, particularly the Laboratory Division, for presenting us with this timely item. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rosenworcel.
So this order is the first of several steps that the Commission will be taking to update the way it certifies equipment. Today's action revises the agency's Part 2 rules by increasing the number of codes available for new parties applying for certification of radio frequency equipment. It's a small decision, but a great parable for the dynamic power of the larger internet and wireless economy. If we look around us, we will notice that so many of the electric devices that we use every day literally carry the FCC's seal of approval. These devices range from consumer products like garage door openers, to digital audio players, to medical scanners and equipment, to smart grid services and public safety technology. and apparently also toys in the McDowell household. The Commission's longstanding equipment authorization program is the gateway through which new radio frequency equipment must pass before it can be introduced into markets and into our homes, businesses, and daily lives. The Commission processes these equipment authorizations by establishing technical rules. It then typically works with private telecommunications certification bodies to ensure that these new devices and services comply with these rules. But recent years have seen an explosion of new devices and spectacular growth in the number of companies seeking authorization for their radio frequency equipment. So we are running out of grantee codes. To accommodate this growth, today's order revises the agency's rules to increase the number of alphanumeric codes available for new parties applying for certification. This means 8 million more grantee codes. And over the great arc of time, it can mean 8 million more opportunities for businesses to develop new and innovative products. It can mean 8 million more companies will have the ability to offer devices that change the way we live and work. I support it and thank the Office of Engineering and Technology for their work.
Thank you. Commissioner Pyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks as well to the distinguished staff of the Office of Engineering and Technology for this item. I support this housekeeping item to expand the size of grantee codes from 3 characters to 5 characters. And let me assure the American public that if it ever becomes necessary to take the bold step of moving to 6 or even 7 grantee codes, the Office of Engineering and Technology will have my full backing. On a more serious note, equipment authorization is a vital and I think underappreciated Commission function. For the sake of all consumers, it is important for devices and equipment that are sold in the United States to comply with the Commission's technical standards. For example, if one consumer's device does not comply with our emission limits, it can hamper other consumers' abilities to use their devices as well. It is also imperative, however, to have an efficient authorization process so that innovative products can reach the marketplace in a timely manner. I look forward to reviewing the proposals previewed by OET this morning for further improving the equipment authorization process and stand ready to implement further reforms to the process that will allow technically compliant devices to reach the marketplace more quickly. Thanks once again to the OET, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you. And so everything has been said, but not by me. But I agree with everything that's been said, and I thank Julie and Rashmi and Jerry for this very important work. This is a discussion about innovation, and as my colleagues have pointed out, equipment authorizations are one of the important ways that the FCC is a key player in the supply chain of innovation. We have important responsibilities that I know you and your team take very, very seriously before devices are certified. And I also know that you take very, very seriously the role that the certification process plays in innovation. This is a critical step in going to market for all these amazing devices, from smartphones and tablets to toys to garage openers to health devices, etc. So it is important work. It is a key part of our innovation agenda. And as you've pointed out, the challenges on OET are getting greater, not smaller. It's another thing in the category of problems that we want to have. The challenges are getting greater because there are more devices that are spectrum-based, more devices with radios in them that are communicating wirelessly with other devices and making things happen magically. There are not only more devices, and you showed that in your charts, the devices themselves are getting more complex with more radios in them that require more work in order to certify them. So I commend the fact that meeting these challenges is not something that OET woke up a couple of weeks ago and said, oh, we have to do something here. In fact, this is something that, Julie, you and I talked about very early in my time here, and I know we received a letter from Apple a few months ago, Apple, of course, working frequently with OET to get devices certified. And Apple in that letter said, and this is a quote, OET has consistently worked hard to ensure careful authorization of equipment while striving to administer a process that allows innovation. Now, Apple in that letter pointed to these challenges that we're talking today, a dramatic increase in the number of devices, an increase in the complexity of devices. And like all of my colleagues, I'm very pleased that we're tackling these challenges head on and looking for ways to reform and streamline our processes that allow us to continue to play a very positive role in our innovation supply chain while continuing to meet the agency's important responsibilities. And so this item today that we're voting on, as you've said and as we've all understood, is one part of a multi-step process to reform and streamline the certification process. We'll have other actions coming up, and I know that even as that occurs, you and your teams and all of us will continue to have open, regular discussions with all stakeholders to make sure that no good idea goes undiscovered. We're being very transparent about our goals, efficiency, innovation, and fulfilling our responsibilities. We're happy to embrace technology to improve our processes and our speed and efficiency, and other good ideas of the sorts that you described. So thank you again to each of you and your teams. Excellent work and an important part of what the FCC does. And with that, let's proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, so ordered, and the request for editorial privileges is granted. Thank you very much. Madam Secretary, please announce item number 2.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, the next item on your agenda will be presented by the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. It is entitled Amendment of Part 90 of the Commission's Rules, Implementing a Nationwide Broadband Interoperable Public Safety Network in the 700 MHz band and Service Rules for the 698 to 746, 747 to 762, and 777 to 792 MHz bands.
Excellent. Mr. Turetsky, welcome to the front table. Is this your first
It is.
presentation?
It is.
Well, we welcome you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm David Turetsky, Chief of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau, and I'm honored to be here before you today. I've been on the job for 3 weeks now, and already I have a clear sense of how fortunate I am to be working on critically important public safety issues with a talented and dedicated staff. I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for providing me with the opportunity to serve at such an important time in the development of our nation's communications future. I also want to thank you and all the commissioners for your kind words of welcome over the past days, and it's been appreciated. I truly look forward to working with you as we tackle the many challenges that lay ahead. Today, the Bureau will present an important item that considers ways to invigorate and maximize use of the 4.9 gigahertz band by the public safety community. The 4.9 gigahertz broadband spectrum is important because it presents a contiguous block of 50 megahertz of spectrum that is dedicated for public safety. The 4.9 gigahertz spectrum enables public safety users to set up temporary mesh networks at scenes of emergencies, monitor sensitive locations remotely with point-to-point video links, and set up citywide Wi-Fi networks to give first responders dedicated broadband access. This spectrum holds great potential to complement the 700 megahertz nationwide public safety broadband network for backhaul, to facilitate safer operation of our nation's critical infrastructure, and to provide wireless broadband connectivity in remote or sparsely populated locations. Since its allocation back in 2002, the public safety community has expressed interest in the 4.9 gigahertz band, but the band has experienced only a mild uptake of users compared to the heavy saturation of the legacy public safety spectrum bands below 512 megahertz. At a time when our nation faces ever-increasing demands on spectrum, the welfare and safety of our nation's first responders and the citizens they serve require that we aggressively promote policies that leverage technologies in a manner designed to maximize a synergistic and efficient use of spectrum. This item takes a major step in that direction. Sitting with me are Tom Beers, Chief of the Policy and Licensing Division, Zenji Nakazawa, Deputy Chief of the Division, and Tom Eng, Staff Engineer for the Division. Mr. Nakazawa will present today's item on behalf of the Bureau. Zenji?
Yes, thank you, David, and the Bureau is delighted to have you, too. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The Bureau presents for your consideration today a fourth report and order and fifth further notice of proposed rulemaking addressing Commission policies and rules concerning the 4.9 gigahertz band. This band is 50 megahertz of contiguous spectrum that the Commission designated for public safety use in 2002. The draft fourth report and order includes ministerial changes designed to correct certain areas in existing Part 90 rules and clarifies the 4.9 gigahertz channel plan. The proposed further notice of proposed rulemaking seeks public comment about how best to stimulate use of the 4.9 gigahertz band consistent with the Commission's spectrum efficiency goals. The notice seeks comment primarily on three core issues. First, the notice seeks comment about whether to establish formal coordination requirements in the 4.9 gigahertz band beyond the informal coordination procedures in place today. Next, the notice seeks comment about whether the Commission should expand eligibility in the 4.9 gigahertz band to include critical infrastructure entities and other commercial users, and if so, whether such use should be on a secondary basis subject to a shutdown feature to ensure public safety priority access. Finally, the notice asks whether and to what extent the 4.9 gigahertz band can complement the 700 megahertz public safety broadband network to be deployed by FirstNet under the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act of 2012. The notice specifically asks whether FirstNet is or should be eligible to hold a 4.9 gigahertz band license, particularly in connection with the provision of backhaul links in support of the 700 megahertz network. The remainder of the notice seeks comment on technical proposals to increase efficiency, usage, and throughput in the band. The Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau recommends adoption of this item and requests editorial privileges. Thank you.
Thank you, and well done. Commissioner McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fortunately or unfortunately, today's order and notice is an excellent example of what happens when policymakers, sometimes with the best of intentions, over-engineer spectrum allotments. And first of all, I want to congratulate and welcome my old friend David Turetsky for his being here as chief of the Bureau. And this is an incredible accomplishment in your first 3 weeks. So here you are at a very historic moment, I think, for the 4.9 gigahertz band. But I've had the pleasure of knowing David and working with him many times over the years, and he's a great addition to the Commission. And I also applaud Chairman Janikowski for attempting to right the ship in this area and take us on a new course, and I'm therefore pleased to support today's action. Of course, I might have been thinking using that analogy of our prior chief of the Homeland Security Bureau, Admiral Jamie Barnett. But to appreciate our action today is important to understand some of the historical context surrounding how we arrived here. Back in the year 2000, the Commission proposed to allocate the 4.9 gigahertz band under Part 27 for fixed and mobile services with licenses assigned by competitive bidding. At that time, the Commission specifically rejected the suggestion that the spectrum be set aside for public safety because Congress had just recently, at that time, allotted 24 megahertz in the 700 band for exclusive public safety use. In 2002, however, the Commission allocated the band for exclusive mobile use by public safety entities after hearing from To quote the Commission at the time, numerous state, county, and local government and national public safety organizations representing a diverse group of critical public safety activities, law enforcement, firefighting, SWAT, tactical team, and bomb squad, hazardous materials handling, railroad passenger rescue, and emergency medical operations, end quote. These entities apparently argued persuasively that a public safety designation in this band would quote, enable responders to carry out critical and urgent missions in a way that ensures more effective and efficient service to their communities and provide a safer environment for emergency responders, end quote. They also explained that the band, as they said, could be used for short-range broadband wide area local networks for different operations at different locations in the same city, thus multiplying its utilization. Finally, they consistently stated that the spectrum would be used primarily in emergency situations, and they needed dedicated spectrum that would be reliably available without delay. So here we are, 10 years later. The Commission's staff informs me that only about 2,400 of the approximately 87,500 local governmental jurisdictions across the U.S. actually hold licenses in the 4.9 gigahertz band. And over the course of my tenure, many public safety representatives have suggested to me that this band is not suitable for the advanced broadband communication services that they most need. In the meantime, I can't help imagine what may have been had the spectrum been auctioned back in 2002. There's no telling what kinds of innovative services may have developed in this band, and we'll never know what could have been, but now we have an opportunity to make new dreams a reality. Whatever the reason for the band's woeful underutilization, the good news is that today we are starting anew and seeking comment on fresh ideas for maximizing utility of the 4.9 gigahertz band. As always, I look forward to engaging with my colleagues and interested parties, and I hope that we will proceed mindful of the years that we've lost. I'm eager to put the spectrum into the hands of America's wireless consumers as quickly as possible. So I want to thank the entire team, as well as Acting Chief David Firth, for all their hard work on this. And congratulations again to Chief Turetsky.
Thank you. Commissioner Clyburn.
Mr. Turetsky, again, welcome to the FCC. This is my first opportunity to publicly congratulate you for being named Chief of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. I feel somewhat guilty, however, for not being especially fair to you. There were some very difficult and time-sensitive issues waiting for you in your inbox, but during our inaugural meeting, you made it quite clear that you were up to the challenge. And this should come as no surprise to those who are familiar with your work both in the public and private sectors. And indeed, you're off to a great start by presenting us with an item that contains recommendations to encourage greater deployment of fixed and mobile public safety services in the 4.9 gigahertz band. Ever since the National Broadband Plan's release in March of 2010, one of the highest priorities for the Commission has been to find new ways to repurpose spectrum for commercial mobile services. Since spectrum has become such a premium, when the Commission finds that a particular spectrum band is being underutilized, it is imperative that the agency encourages greater use of this precious resource. This is as true for spectrum allocated to public safety as it is for spectrum allocated to commercial services. When the Commission first allocated 15 megahertz of spectrum in the 4.9 gigahertz band for fixed and mobile services, it intended to give the public safety community maximum access to emerging broadband technologies. The agency anticipated that this band would support new broadband applications such as high-speed digital technologies for scene management and dispatch operations. Unfortunately, the ban has not led to the development of the advanced services the Commission originally anticipated. Local public safety entities have not taken advantage of this ban as much as we expected, and while there are currently more than 87,000 public safety jurisdictions, fewer than 3% hold licenses in the 4.9 gigahertz band. I commend the staff for presenting a number of creative proposals that could encourage greater deployment of services for this band. These recommendations include expanding eligibility to more than just public safety entities, adopting standards to promote interoperability of equipment in the band, and using the band for wireless backhaul services that could help the deployment of the nationwide public safety network. It is also important to note that the item seeks to address issues such as the need for better coordination among licensees that were raised in response to a further notice that the Commission released in 2009. I encourage all relevant stakeholders to participate in this proceeding. I would like to thank the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau for presenting us with such a thorough, and I don't know what thorough means right now in this context, but such a thorough discussion of the relevant technical issues. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Rosenworcel.
In today's order and further notice, the Commission looks for new ways to deliver advanced communications tools and finally unlock the potential in the 4.9 gigahertz band. A decade ago, when the Commission allocated this band for fixed and mobile services in support of public safety, it envisioned that the spectrum could be used for a variety of new broadband applications, including wireless local area networks in emergencies or public safety hotspots. But this has largely not come to pass. So this proceeding is an opportunity to reboot, reinvigorate, and remake possibilities in the 4.9 gigahertz band. While proposing to continue to use the band primarily for support of public safety, we also seek comment on expanding eligibility to permit use by the critical infrastructure industry and by commercial users under certain conditions. These additional users could provide scope and scale that would promote the development of equipment for use in the band. So I want to thank the Bureau for their efforts to ensure that our spectrum resources are used fairly and efficiently. I look forward to the record that develops, and a warm welcome to our new Bureau Chief.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Pai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my second opportunity in as many Commission meetings to vote on a proposal to improve the communications capabilities of our nation's public safety professionals. As I said when we launched the examination of the potential use of deployable aerial communications architecture during emergencies, actions such as these fulfill our core purpose of promoting safety in life and property through the use of wire and radio communications. I once again commend the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau for its continued efforts to be responsive to the needs of public safety organizations as well as the citizens they protect. And I look forward to working once again with the new Bureau Chief, David Turetsky, on this and many other matters in the days to come. This item focuses on promoting more effective and efficient use of the 4.9 gigahertz spectrum allocated to public safety. It is one of the many necessary and incremental steps in the broader struggle to free up additional spectrum to meet our nation's ever-growing demand for it. The 4.9 gigahertz spectrum was transferred from federal government to non-federal government use pursuant to the statutory requirements of the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1993. As has been mentioned, it ultimately was designated by the Commission for Public Safety use in 2002, and at the time the Commission believed that the allocation and designation would provide public safety with additional spectrum to support new broadband applications. However, also as has been mentioned, a decade later, and notwithstanding Commission action in 2009 to further facilitate its use for public safety broadband, it is obvious that this spectrum remains underutilized. As a result, we are compelled to reevaluate our existing regulatory scheme and seek comment on new approaches to spur robust and efficient use of the band. The order we adopt today clarifies and corrects certain technical rules, and it is my hope that this allows the Commission to move forward in the near future. However, these measures should not overshadow the fact that today's 4.9 gigahertz inquiry is occasioned by the gap between expectations and results. There are immediate lessons that we should take from this history. First and foremost, we should be reminded that even with the best intentions, time is not our ally in combating a spectrum shortage. It can take years to bring spectrum into the marketplace. Thus, we should not, and indeed, given increasing demand, cannot, focus solely on long-term solutions to the exclusion of short-term opportunities. To be sure, I will continue to press for the prompt implementation of the incentive auction authority Congress recently granted us. And I will continue to urge the federal government to accelerate its efforts to free up as much additional spectrum as is feasible. But I also believe we must not neglect viable, immediate options on spectrum policy. In particular, the Commission must quickly review secondary market transactions that will put spectrum into the hands of those who will put it to higher value use. Right now, many of these transactions take too long for the Commission to review. We also must be vigilant in our efforts to ensure that our rules remain current in the face of rapid technological innovation. And I'm pleased that to that end, today's notice of proposed rulemaking illustrates how we can update our rules to realize the benefits of current technology and remove barriers to the efficient use of spectrum. Among other things, we seek comment on adjustments to the existing 4.9 gigahertz technical rules that may result in increased spectrum efficiency and throughput, while maintaining safeguards to avoid interference. We solicit views on our tentative conclusion that expanding eligibility for commercial use on a secondary basis would incent investment and promote greater use of the band. We inquire whether critical infrastructure industry entities should be eligible to hold 4.9 gigahertz licenses on a primary basis, thus removing the requirement for a sharing agreement under the current rules. We explore alternative licensing schemes as yet another way to expand use of the band. Finally, we examine whether we should lift the general prohibition on aeronautical mobile operations in the band and permit such operation on a secondary, non-interference basis to 4.9 gigahertz terrestrial services, subject to certain conditions and requirements. I look forward to reviewing a robust record on these and other issues raised in the NPRM and working with my fellow commissioners and the Bureau as we go forward. After too long a journey, it is my hope that this proceeding will put us on a path that will enable more efficient use of this spectrum to the benefit of all Americans. Thank you once again to the Bureau and to the Chairman.
Thank you. And thank you, David, and the Bureau. David, we so appreciate that you're here, and I know through this and a whole series of other issues that have come up in just the last 3 weeks that you've been here, you're getting more than a full dose of exposure to the important and challenging set of initiatives and challenges around the Commission's public safety-related responsibilities. It's something that, as you've heard from all of our remarks, we take very, very seriously. It's a core FCC function, and the opportunities are just tremendous. The Mobile Broadband Public Safety Network, FirstNet, which thanks to Senator Rockefeller and others is now law, was something that in our national broadband plan we said it's time to fund and move forward with this idea of the 9/11 Commission. That, of course, is generating serious, important work for the FCC as we work with FirstNet and NTIA to get that off the ground. We have hit, as an agency, all of our marks under the statute, and we intend to continue to do that, and I know how seriously you're taking that role. Of course, there's much, much more. You know that we've been working hard on accelerating the move to next generation 911. It's still the case that people generally can't send texts or photos of crimes to first responders and 911 centers. That has to change. As you know, we've seen some very positive announcements on companies moving to meet this challenge. I'm told there are others in the pipeline, and we're very excited about that because that can make a real difference to the safety of people all over the country and to help first responders do their jobs. We've talked about cybersecurity. We've talked about so many different ways that the FCC can and must play a role in harnessing new communications technologies to empower first responders and help them do their important job of keeping us safe. So this particular item is an important one, as my colleagues have mentioned for too long. This piece of spectrum, 50 megahertz, has not met its goals. It's been dramatically underutilized, and we're committed to doing everything to change that. And in the items today, if I could summarize what I see as key about them, it's important for four key reasons. One, we're taking serious steps to unlock the potential of 4.9 gigahertz for public safety use. It's clear that the band hasn't met its potential, and that inaction, in this case, isn't going to help. The item that you have developed puts us on a path to change that and to have this band be part of the toolkit for public safety as it does its important work. Second, this action today is designed to foster innovation and the development of exciting new communications technologies for public safety. Ideas that I know there's growing enthusiasm about for this band include cutting-edge mobile temporary mesh networks that can support data, voice, and video, networks that support remote real-time video monitoring in sensitive locations, networks that support citywide Wi-Fi to give first responders dedicated broadband access. This is a high frequency, so it has certain limitations. But increasingly, engineers from across the landscape are seeing ways to utilize higher frequencies like this to make a material difference. One of the areas in which I hope that this can become an area to make substantial progress is on the growing gap that I hear more and more about from first responders, the gap between the functionality of public safety communications devices and commercial communications devices. And it gets worse when you look at the gap as measured by functionality and price for public safety related communications devices as compared to commercial. And we're all hearing from too many public safety officials and first responders in the streets saying, hey, listen, my device for which I paid a lot more than your commercial device over here, well, it's doing less for more. So one of the things to hope for and to work to try to accomplish in this band and in others, this will require multiple strategies, is tackling that gap. It's one of the many reasons why I'm pleased that this item, like others, proposes to increase the ease with which public safety and commercial can cooperate to put in place mutually beneficial arrangements regarding spectrum. That increases the chances, in my view, that public safety, first responders, commercial engineers working together can help develop better public safety communications devices for less, while also unlocking commercial potential without sacrificing in any way the important public safety needs of the spectrum. And the fourth area where I think this is important is the regulatory reform area. We've had an ongoing commitment here that we all share to review our rules on a regular basis and on our own initiative say, hey, here's something that's not working well, we need to fix it. Well, what the Commission did in 4.9 gigahertz is not working well, and we need to fix it. The work that you've put into this already puts us on a strong path to unlock the potential of this of these 50 megahertz of spectrum. So thank you for your work on this. Thank you to each of the members of this team for your work on this and the full range of public safety and homeland security issues that you work on. With that, let us proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the request for editorial privileges is granted. Now that brings us to the end of our formal items. I think before we ask the Secretary to inform us of the next date for our Commission meeting, let me ask if anyone has personnel or other announcements. I know that I do, but I'll save myself. Commissioner McDowell, anything?
Well, first of all, I don't want to steal any of your thunder, but
No, go ahead.
I might be. I wanted to say thank you and farewell to Austin Schlick. This is his last meeting as General Counsel of the Federal Communications Commission, and he came here as a FCC veteran and a very accomplished attorney in many, many respects. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to serve with you. It's always a difficult job being General Counsel, so I have sympathy for your successor. But you've done an outstanding job, and our meetings have always been more than civil. They've been downright friendly and fun most of the time, even when we disagree. Most of them have been fun. Well, except for a couple of times. But anyway. Then it was just business. But you have carried your office with a great deal of honor and dignity and intelligence and diligence and many other virtues. And I wanted to thank you for your service. And I know the chairman is going to as well. So sorry to have stolen the thunder. But he can go on even further. But we have law clerks. We have law clerks. I'd like to introduce a few of them. In no particular order, we will start with, I have four, if that's okay. We'll try to move through this quickly. But Emmanuel Garria. Emmanuel, want to stand up so your parents can see you while they're watching online. There we go. He wore a nice bright red tie. Make sure that the camera zooms in on him. Stay standing. There we go. Okay, Mom and Dad, you want to wave to him? Stay standing. Wait a minute, this is part of the hazing. Emmanuel has an interesting trifecta that I have not seen on a resume before. He has internships at all three branches of government so far. So he has had an internship with the legislative branch with Congressman Louis Gohmert. Later had an internship with the Supreme Court as a judicial intern, one of two students in the nation selected to serve in the office of the counselor to the Chief Justice, showing his bipartisan bona fides. He later he was a White House intern 3 years ago, the summer of '09. And so now you have an internship in an administrative agency, independent administrative agency, which all of us could write many law review articles as to whether or not we're the fourth branch of government, whether or not that would be constitutional. But anyway, we won't go into that today. So looking forward. Okay, now you can sit down. So thank you, Emmanuel. All right, next up is Emily DeLozier. I forgot to say Emmanuel's just finished first year at Georgetown Law. Emily just finished second year at Catholic, where she is on the Common Law Conspectus, Journal of Communications Law and Policy, which is, of course, vaunted in our arena. She is no stranger to the FCC. Last summer was an intern in the Enforcement Bureau in the Investigations and Hearings Division, which, of course, is always very, very busy. She's also worked at NTIA. She is proficient in French, which means her name should be pronounced differently from Emily DeLozier. You can ask her how it's supposed to be pronounced. I took Spanish. And she is, it's on her resume, a Washington Redskins fan, which means not only is she loyal, but she's an optimist as well. So I say that as a Redskins fan. Tyler Cox, next up. He is, button your jacket so Mom and Dad can see with the button jacket. There we go. We're going to get him on camera? There we go. So he is a Preston Padden scholar here at the FCC. That's an inside joke in case Preston was watching. Preston, here's your man. We have him. Thank you for forwarding him to us. He is a law student at the University of Colorado Law School in beautiful Boulder, Colorado. He is executive articles editor, it says 11th volume, of the Journal on Telecommunications and High-Tech Law, and he just recently finished up, actually I hope you finished this up, the thing the thing that I wrote that they're going to publish, right? Okay, good. He is a native Coloradan, and he was also very active when he was at University of Oregon School of Law. I guess you transferred, is that right? Okay. In the Public Interest Fund there in Eugene, Oregon. And then we welcome back, she gets 2 bites at the online video Apple, Sarah Lagan, who has just finished up her second year at American University and went to Duke University undergrad, and that's just a coincidence that we hired her. And I gave you her whole resume last time, so I just want to make sure you got on camera one more time for Mom and Dad. So she did such a great job starting in January that we asked her back for the summer. There we go. Those are our summer interns.
Excellent.
I'm done.
Commissioner Clyburn.
Well, I'll go ahead and, since my colleague from who attended Duke University broke the mold a bit, I'd like to acknowledge a couple of people that I know you will in a future. I'm going to break tradition. I know there's at least one person expecting me to, I guess, conduct myself in true Mignon fashion, and I'm not going to do that, so I'll disappoint. First, let me say that Ruth and Sean, I'm looking forward to working with you, but this means that we have to say goodbye to 2 people that mean a lot to me. So I didn't bring my tissue up here, so I'll try to compose myself. Austin, I've gotten kind of used to you. You know, Austin is one of the few people in this town that there's one sitting in the White House that kind of has this great blend of kind of being a little nerdy but cool. My goodness. Don't tell him the other one I said that just in case he changes his mind about something. But anyway, Austin, my goodness, your intelligence, good humor. When I called and said, classic Mignon panic mode, you're always there to just make everything better, to help us message. Austin, and I keep saying he has this great sense of humor. He doesn't show it a lot because, again, he's trying to sit there, all upright and cool. Austin will make you laugh if you'll allow him to. He is truly funny, but he blends it so well with serious, legal advice, and he has always been a friend to this office. I will really miss you. I could say a whole host of things that might get a couple of more laughs, but we're going to miss you. I really do not want you to go. I really don't. Sean, I'm looking forward to working with you, trust me. But like I said, I've gotten used to you, and when you get used to people, it's just hard to say goodbye. But I wish you the best. You were always there when I needed you, and I really appreciate it. Rick Kaplan, on the other hand. No, Rick was one of the first people I met in this space. Rick attempted to work with me during the confirmation hearing. Sorry. We made it anyway. And Rick was one of the few people who I have to say in the early days captured my voice better than I could articulate my voice. He listens. He cares about the things that you do. He helped us affirm our priorities early on. We were from outside of the Beltway, and a lot of people said a lot of things, but Rick was on a mission with us to ensure that we affirm what we were about, that we phrase it in such a way that it was clear and distinct. And for that and so much more, I'll miss him. He's got 3 boys that are very active and apparently calling you now. So I, for a lot of reasons, I understand why we're at this point. But again, Rick has been a friend. Rick has always been accessible. And whether I want him to be accessible or not, he's been there. I've gotten emails from him literally at midnight, and I'm going like, why are you up? Then I'm like, well, if I'm answering him, then I am up. Then why are we speaking? Chelsea has been more than understanding of all of that. She probably knows he's not my type, so she wouldn't worry. But, again, Rick, you brought this sense of humor to the office. We never laughed so much and got so much done than when you were there. You set the tone, you broke the mold, and again, we'll miss you too. So, Chair, before I have to reach over to borrow your handkerchief, I will just say that both of these gentlemen have made this ecosystem one in which we are increasingly proud, and for that and so much more, I'll miss you, but Godspeed.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Worcel?
Let me first start by thanking Austin Schlick, because I've had the privilege of working with him in a few different jobs I've had in this agency and around town. He is a knowledgeable and elegant authority on communications law, and the most important thing to know is that I will not hold it against him that he announced his departure virtually on the day that I arrived. We do have some personnel announcements in my office, and we're subtle in my office so these people can remain seated in any event. We've got 2 new people joining us, and I want to make sure everyone knows who they are. First, I am privileged to have Priscilla Delgado Argyris joining us. She will chiefly be working on wireline issues as my legal advisor. She is from the law firm of Wiley Ryan and previously worked at PG&E National Energy Group. She's a graduate of Princeton University and New York University School of Law. And sitting next to her is the second individual who's joined my office, which is Valerie Galasso. She is going to be my confidential assistant and special advisor. She joins us from the office of the Vice President, where she served as Special Assistant for Legislative Affairs. Before that, she served as a graduate fellow at the Office of Congressional Affairs at the National Telecommunications and Information Administration. She is a graduate of the University of Connecticut. Go Huskies. As a Connecticut native myself, how to say that. She has a master's in public policy from Johns Hopkins University. So they are both whip smart. They are both experts in communications policy. I know that they will be an asset to my office and to the commission at large.
Thank you. Commissioner Pye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one staff announcement, but before I get to that, I'd like to say a word about Austin. I think I'm unique among the members of this panel in that I had the privilege of serving under Austin when I worked in the Office of General Counsel between 2009 and 2011, and so I got to see him up close and personal for quite a while on a whole variety of issues. When I think of Austin, I think of just a model general counsel, of course, but more generally, just a model public servant. Here's a person who has such distinguished credentials and could do virtually literally anything he wanted in the legal profession. And he's devoted so many years in service of his country, as well as the state of Maryland. And I just want to thank you for making that sacrifice, because I think you're the kind of person that the government needs, frankly. And we need more people like you to step up. And your willingness to serve, I think, has served us all very well. So for that, we're grateful. I also just want to note that Austin has one of the most unique combinations of skills I've ever seen. Good judgment, of course, keen intellect, everybody knows that. His rapid response, I mean, it's just incredible. You will email him, and before you hit send almost, you'll get his response back in your inbox. His speed of response is incredible. And also his warm demeanor and collegiality. I have had the privilege of serving under numerous general counsels, both within the commission and outside of the commission in my career. And his ability to bring the office together around a common purpose, to get things done, often in very trying circumstances on controversial policy questions and issues, is just incredible. So, thank you, for your leadership of the office. It's a privilege, I think, as well, for you to be able to say, and I think everyone would agree, that in addition to being a great lawyer, you're such a good person, and there are worse ways to be known as you depart the commission. So, thank you once again for your service. Austin. I also want to take a minute to introduce the newest member of my staff, Courtney Reinhardt. Courtney started the commission last week and has hit the ground running as my legal advisor for wireless issues. Prior to joining my office, Courtney worked for the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on the Budget, where she served as counsel and budget analyst to Chairman Paul Ryan. In that job, her portfolio included telecommunications issues with a focus on spectrum auctions, public safety communications, broadband grants, and the Universal Service Fund, the easy stuff. Previously, Courtney served as a telecommunications counsel for the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Energy and Commerce, where she specialized in wireless policy, rural telecommunications, E911, and interoperability. She also served as a policy advisor on communications, technology, and intellectual property issues to Senator Jim DeMint and Representative John Shimkus. I personally have had the pleasure of working with Courtney back when we both worked in Senator Sam Brownback's office. She was a policy advisor, and I was chief counsel on the Judiciary Committee for him. And she and I collaborated on a variety of matters involving the Senate Judiciary Committee. Courtney received her law degree from George Mason and her undergraduate degree with honors from the University of California, Davis. I'm very pleased that she's agreed to join our office, and I look forward to working with her early and often during her tenure. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And Commissioner McDowell, I think you had
I got a redo.
An additional an amendment.
The guys back in the booth probably turned off my mic permanently. There we go. So I got a little bit of a redo in my ongoing effort to become more subtle. I subtly forgot Rick Kaplan. Didn't realize this was the moment for the farewell. So first of all, Rick, we're going to miss you terribly in the McDowell office. Your addition to the FCC has been tremendous. Your commitment to public service has been exemplary. I first got to know you during the DTV transition, which was one of perhaps the most complicated endeavor the FCC has ever undertaken. That is until we're going to start the new incentive auctions, yeah. But you were incredibly professional throughout, kept your cool, always had that sense of humor to disarm a tense situation. You're incredibly bright and diligent, and you have an incredible amount of integrity. And you're also very good at the craps table. So anyone who's walking by a craps table with Rick, just watch him in action. So we're going to miss you terribly, and I wanted to make sure I didn't forget this opportunity. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. And thanks to all of you for your patience, both here in the room and people watching online, and also closed circuit in the FCC. We do spend time honoring the people who have worked here, welcoming the new people coming in, because we all believe very, very strongly that the FCC is about its people. We experience that every day because of all of our work as commissioners of the FCC, bureau chiefs, staffers. It's all about the people that we engage with. And I appreciate what Commissioner Pai said about the importance of attracting the kind of talented people that we've been able to attract to the FCC. We play such an important role in our innovation economy with respect to public safety, education, other areas. We'll do our job better as we continue to recruit great talent. And so we've been very, very lucky because each of the people who are unfortunately leaving today are superstars. We've brought in new superstars to continue this tradition. It's in that spirit that I want to say a few words about each of the people who are at crossroads in this period. Rick Kaplan. Let me start with Rick. Rick is the Robert Parrish of the FCC. Now it's not, it would have been better if they had won the last series. Nevertheless, for those of you who follow basketball, Robert Parrish was known as the Chief, and I think Rick has set the record for holding down chief jobs. Chief per year. Rick served as Commissioner Clyburn's chief of staff. I was very lucky to have Rick serve as my chief counsel. And, of course, for the last number of months, 2 years, year and a half, 1 year, chief of the wireless bureau. It all feels like 5 minutes to me and probably 10 years to Rick. But in each of those jobs, plus, of course, the DTV transition role, Rick performed excellently in so many different ways, jumping into hard issues, tackling them with intelligence, creativity, a desire to problem solve, and to make sure that we were doing the right thing for the American people. Rick has been involved in so many of our most significant actions and accomplishments of the last few years. We will all miss Rick a lot on every level. The substantive contributions he made to the FCC, and also his good humor and his friendship. We will miss them a lot. I do appreciate the fact that even after Rick steps down as chief of the Wireless Bureau on June 20th, Rick has agreed, with no arm twisting, of course, to continue to lead the staff working on the Verizon Wireless Spectrum Co. Transaction. And so, Rick, thank you for that. I hope you appreciate the basketball reference and that it helps you in your capacity as a talent agent for basketball players and others. I do have to say that it was the single most impressive thing that I saw in Rick's resume when I first had the occasion to meet him, and I think he's proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that being a sports agent is perfect background, a perfect qualification for being at the FCC, and so consider this a call. To sports agents everywhere, we have a place for you at the FCC and very important work to do. So, Rick, thank you for your work. I think what I'm going to do is maybe ask people to hold applause for a few minutes, because there are a few people who really deserve the public acknowledgement of people here. But again, I just want to tell you how thrilled I am by the work that you've done and how proud I am on behalf of the American people for the contributions you've made. You'll have a lot to look back on for a long time, very concrete accomplishments. Rick will be succeeded. It says here replaced, but I don't. by Ruth Milkman, the Magic Johnson of the agency.
Would you explain that one, please? Please.
Because Ruth can play any position at the agency and make everyone around her better.
Okay.
But seriously, Rick was one of the very first people I talked to when I learned that I would be offered this job. But I've known Ruth even longer. Ruth was one of the very first people I talked to when I was hired at the FCC the first time in 1994. Ruth was a superstar in the years that I worked with her back then, from 94 to 97. And we're so lucky to have Ruth in the sector, and especially at the agency. Ruth has been a model public servant, committed to excellence, committed to driving the right answers on very difficult public policy issues, committed to the staff of the FCC. Ruth has been just a wonderful friend, and I'm so thrilled that Ruth is taking on the wireless bureau chief again. Ruth is over there somewhere because I heard her laugh. I can't see her.
Sorry about Rick.
There we go. Okay, there you are.
It's Magic Johnson. She must not have the Magic Johnson
so many, if I do this for everyone, we will be here all day. I do want to note that Ruth in the interim period served as my special counsel for FCC reform, and I'm so proud of what this agency has been able to do over the last 3 years on reg reform. I won't go through all the numbers. You've heard me say them before. But Ruth absolutely has gotten the very best from the staff around the agency in moving forward on removing outdated regulations, outdated unnecessary data collections, smart cost-benefit analysis. And Ruth, I appreciate that so much. I think that's it for the sports references. But having acknowledged Rick, who I met before I even took this job, and Ruth, who I met a long time ago, Austin is someone I've known even longer than that. Notwithstanding his unfortunate choice of law school, he corrected that by clerking for a great judge, who I also clerked for, and there's very, very little that can be added to describe Austin's incredible contribution to the agency in the last 3 years. Because I knew Austin and I knew his background, I had very, very high expectations for Austin coming in as general counsel, and in every single respect, he exceeded those expectations. Austin, you have been one of a kind. You embody a set of skills that are rarely found in one person. You're a great counselor and a great manager. You are a visionary, and you're also practical. You're both brilliant and wise, and you've set a model for all of us, for everyone at the agency, on how one can do a very, very difficult job, do it well, do it professionally, and do it in a way where your accomplishments will extend beyond your departure from the agency. The General Counsel's office couldn't be in better shape, and in fact the agency as a whole is working very, very well, and you've played just a critical role in making that happen. I know you'd be the first to say that to the extent you've had any accomplishments here, it's all about your team, and you do have a great team. You've attracted a great team because of who you are. You've molded that team in a great way, and I really do think those accomplishments trace back up to you and your incredible work. There are metrics that prove how successful you've been. Our one-loss record in court is as high as it's ever been. I think the number is, I think you've won over 90% of your cases. The Nationals have something to aspire to, and reaching for your track record. So thank you, Austin, very much, and we will certainly miss you. We are lucky to have Sean Lev ready, willing, and able to step into the breach. It is strange to admit that I've known Sean even longer than I've known you and Ruth and Rick. That's because Sean made the right decision in law school, and so we are righting the scales a little bit here. Although I have to say, it is increasingly getting difficult for me to not acknowledge the great contributions that law school in Connecticut has made to the work of our FCC. So Sean, where are you? Sean is here. Sean has been here quietly now for several months, and soaking up everything that we're doing. Sean, of course, comes to us from the Energy Department, but before that had a very distinguished career in this sector. And because of that, I can see already has just brought incredible perspective, judgment, experience to the table. So we're very lucky to have Sean here. Yes, you have big shoes to fill, Sean, but I'm completely confident that you will do a fantastic job, that we're very lucky to have you in this role. All the new people coming in have big shoes to fill, and so Sean and Ruth and David Turetsky, you two, I'm both thrilled that you're now here at the agency. It is no longer a secret, because I'm saying it now, that I've wanted to have you here at the agency from the moment that I came here, because you have the kind of background and experience and judgment and ability to get things done and problem solve that we really need. And I'm thrilled that this has now worked out that you are here, and I couldn't be more impressed by the way that you've taken the bull by the horns in such an important area of the Commission's responsibility. You are a stellar talent, and you're going to have a great run here at the agency. I do want to thank David Firth, who, as he always does, stepped in when we needed him to serve as acting chief. David, thank you as well. And now let me ask everyone to acknowledge the incredibly great public service that and the thank you that we owe to the people who are leaving soon, Austin Schlick and Rick Kaplan, and the people who have come in accepting the challenge to do our best for the American people, Ruth Milkman and Sean Lev and David Turetsky, and we thank David Firth as well. So thank you all. And with that, Madam Secretary, please announce the date of the next Commission meeting.
The next agenda meeting of the Federal Communications Commission is Thursday, July 19th, 2012.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Well, I order their photographs be placed on the wall in the position of honor for you. Who does have the record for most consistent appearances by the press at a?
Well, I don't know. I think I'd be close, but 2 years I wasn't a journalist, so I don't know that game.
I would say if you're talking about an organization, it would be us. Since
Organization.
Tom Daly often doesn't come to the meetings anymore. But we have several people, so we don't all. I don't come each time, but we're always here.
Well, we can honor organizations.
And have been
we can honor
since you were
individuals.
at the commission before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm open to the asterisk.
The asterisk. Oh, I get the asterisk.
We don't have to know. All right. What do you,
2 years of darkness. Paul, you want to go first?
There's a report today or actually yesterday, that the Justice Department is investigating the cable industry. Are you all planning any sort of investigation or aiding justice in that investigation?
So I can't comment on press reports about investigations, and I can't comment on any investigations that DOJ might have, and as you know, with respect to any investigations that we might have, that's not something that I comment on either.
Is it a concern to you that they may be able to lock up prevent competition with the data caps and those sort of things?
So data caps aren't a simple issue. I've spoken about it at length. It doesn't lend itself to a short one-sentence answer, but I'd encourage you to look at some of the statements I've made on the topic, including one recent one that Neil can get to you.
Yeah, Eliza was there, so I don't have to worry about it. Can I ask one more question?
Sure, go ahead.
Today, there's a hearing today. The House Appropriations Committee voted to strip funding if you guys want to enforce your political file order. What happens if the Congress directs you not to spend any money to put broadcasters' political file on the line?
Well, we'll of course let the process in Congress run its course, and Congress has of course a right to look at this and make any decisions that they feel are appropriate. The order that we adopted is one that fulfills the letter and spirit of the Communications Act, the long history of our rules, moving information from dusty paper files to online is a simple, obvious 21st century thing to do. And so I haven't heard anything since the order was adopted that changes the views that I expressed and my colleagues expressed at the time of the vote, that this was fulfilling a series of important goals that are clearly set out in the Communications Act, and doing it in a way where the benefits dramatically exceed the burdens. Great. And where the burdens are very, very low. Recall that in my statement I quoted the Supreme Court when it rejected the challenge to the statute that requires public file disclosure, where the Supreme Court described the burden argument as, quote, microscopic.
Great. Thank you.
One more, Bruce. But this is it.
There's been some speculation that you may be leaving the commission soon, even before the election. And can you respond to that? Are you planning on leaving soon?
I'm not planning on leaving. I am working hard every day on items that are near-term, medium-term, and long-term. It's an important agency and an important job, and I'm working very hard every day.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.